Repetitive strain injuries can affect people in a wide variety of occupations. Anybody whose work involves rapid, repetitive movements requiring pressure of their hands and arms is at risk. Prime targets are typists, clerks, printers and process and component workers. Tenosynovitis sufferers may experience pain in their arms, neck, shoulders or legs. Last night's public meeting was called by a group of women, many of them tenosynovitis sufferers, who are anxious to draw attention to the condition. They are concerned that many people are suffering the pain it brings without being aware of the cause. One of those women is Robin Trail, an occupational therapist with the Hunter Region Rehabilitation Service.
That's why it's been very difficult to diagnose, because sometimes there's no physical outward appearance of anything other than, but they have tremendous pain.
And what do you recommend people do to prevent these injuries?
To perhaps be aware of what is going on in their workplace, to try and organise good posture, because this is very important to have good posture. Of course, if you're in a position where your neck's down and you're holding your hands incorrectly, that's already going to increase the muscle strain.
About 300 people attended last night's meeting, many more than organisers expected. There were a number of official speeches by tenosynovitis sufferers, health workers and unionists. A self-help support group was formed as a result of the meeting.
Minstrels are in town here at the Civic Theatre for a 5-performance season that ends on Friday, and they're continuing a tradition that started on BBC television back in 1957. It's a tradition of variety that Newcastle audiences have obviously gone for, because there was a big night on opening night and most of the performances are heavily booked. After the first show, I caught some audience reactions.
Very good.
Which did you enjoy most?
I think the main singer. It was beautiful.
Right. Excuse me, would you like to tell me what did you think of the show?
Fantastic.
Very lovely. You really enjoyed it, obviously?
No, I first got into theatre when I was 14 in Organs.
Yeah. Yeah?
And I've seen all shows like that, but that comedian, he got a terrific writer.
Oh, lovely. It was worth coming to see.
Thanks very much.
It was a very good show. Very good show.
About 70 people attended the dinner held at the Central Charlestown Leagues Club. It was a fundraising gathering aimed at helping the Charlestown Elected Council clear debts accrued prior to the recent state election. It was an informal and non-political occasion. Guests from all sectors of the community attended, including leading businessmen, educators and health authorities. Mr Mulock was introduced to the crowd by the member for Charlestown, Mr Richard Face. Rather than use his speech for politicking, Mr Mulock chose to entertain with a series of anecdotes about his political career. Last night was the first fundraising dinner to be arranged by the Charlestown Electric Council, but more a plan for the future.
And Keith Cousins, the chairman of the trust, was standing at a microphone like this and he was reading Australia's F-18 Hornets
Two of Australia's
left the
F-18s left the McDonnell Douglas plant in St Louis in pieces at the weekend. They will arrive at the government aircraft factory in Victoria sometime this morning. A condition of the $2,000 million deal was that nearly all of the fighters be assembled in Australia. One of the first pilots to be fully versed with the new aircraft is Flight Lieutenant John Carr, formerly from the Williamtown RAAF base. He is working at America's Lemoore Naval Base, training with US pilots. At only 33, he's had almost 400 hours at the controls of the ultra-sophisticated fighter. When he returns to Australia, he will be responsible for training the country's first F-18 squadron. Flight Lieutenant Carr used to fly the Mirage. He says the old French jet can't compare with this $22 million model.
It does everything the Mirage can do, better. It's more than I ever thought it'd be. It's tremendous. I think it's one of the smartest buys we've ever made in the Defence Force.
Very little progress has been made on the task of raising the wall 24 metres with 4 million cubic metres of fill to more than double the capacity of the dam. The Engine Drivers and Firemen's Association and the Metal Workers Union have been on strike for 5 weeks, and the remaining workers belonging to the AWU and the BWIU have made little progress as a result. The unions are claiming a site allowance of $1.35 an hour in lieu of all special rates and $10 a day travelling expenses. They say these were the rates on the Glennies Creek Dam, a comparable job by the same contractor. The Citra project manager said today he had not had official word on the union's latest stand, and what work is possible will continue for the time being. He said Citra had no intention of abandoning the project.
Linda Garden's 6-day-a-week training routine involving sprint work near her parents' home at Stockton and jumping at Newcastle Athletics Field is now bringing her into top condition for Los Angeles. Although Linda lives in Sydney these days, she's returned to Newcastle to complete her games preparation with her original coach, Max Debnam. Linda, married and a mother of a 10-month-old daughter, speaks with quiet determination about her Olympic medal chances.
I've never been fitter and I've never been stronger.
Do you feel you're a real gold medal prospect?
It's a difficult sort of question to answer. World record holder Kuzmi is jumping. Romania didn't withdraw with the other Eastern Bloc nations, so I don't know. If I can get up over 7 metres, which I think I'm capable of doing, well then it just depends on the day itself. I mean, I'm in there with a chance, but I couldn't say I'm a definite gold medal prospect, but I think I could win a medal. Many I've got left to do. Usually you've got a set number of repetitions to do, and usually that's all that goes through my mind. I think, that's 3 to go or 2 to go or something like that. I never really think about it because I find that if I do, I tense up in training, I really struggle and all that sort of thing. I find that I'm better off just concentrating on what I've got to do and thinking about my technique as I'm running. And
Understandably, Greg Waters High School, St Joseph's at Aberdeen, is proud of his achievement. In a competition which attracted 5,000 young people from all over Australia, Greg took the title of Lions National Youth of the Year. A visit to an international youth convention in Suffolk and a round-the-world trip to Greg's personal prizes. But today he had the pleasure of seeing his school receive a $10,000 NCR computer and a set of encyclopedias.
Greg said that being a boy from the bush was no disadvantage in the national competition.
Oh no, I never thought that I was disadvantaged from coming from out here. There's no stigma there.
Were you confident at all times during the competition?
I was fairly confident. Not that I expected to win or anything. It's just that you have to have a fair amount of self-confidence to keep going.
But was it a surprise when you were named Youth of the Year?
It was very much so. Oh, it was a huge surprise. It's incredible.
So what are you going to do now with your own career?
Well, I've got the world trip next year that I won in the competition, so I'll have to defer university for a year, but I'm hoping to undertake medical studies at Newcastle University in 1986.
It's been said that you've got very good communicating skills. Do you think they're important for a doctor?
Oh yes, definitely. Most important thing about doctor is, you know, the relationship they have with their patients and with people.
Good morning everyone and welcome. As you know, over the last couple of months I've urged caution with regard to interest rates, and I believe that advice has been spot on. If we look at the recent issues of semi-governmental loans like Energy Commission of Western Australia, New South Wales Premier State bonds and Queensland bonds, we've seen significant increases. In the case of the Queensland bonds, the top rate is 14%, and in the case of Energy Commission of Western Australia and Premier State bonds, the top rate is 13.75%, and that's an increase of 0.75% over their recent issues. Now don't forget, if you're coming up for retirement, and I stress coming up for retirement in the new financial year, if you haven't got the capital available now to take up your full allocation of either Energy Commission loan or Premier State bonds or Queensland bonds, don't forget, as I frequently remind you, about that 10% deposit facility. You can put down a 10% deposit now, and I'm talking about the Queensland bonds, and you can pay off the balance when you receive your lump sum superannuation payment up to the 20th of July in the new financial year. Now this is a great way to reserve, lay by, call it what you will, your full allocation, because I'm quietly confident that we have seen interest rates peaking or very close to peaking. Now you've got 3 on the market for the moment. There'll be new loans announced from time to time, and don't forget when you can to stagger your maturity dates, and don't forget to stagger your interest payments, because that's going to mean a tremendous difference to you as far as your retirement needs are concerned. Now those loans again are Energy Commission of Western Australia, Premier State bonds of New South Wales and Queensland bonds, and in the case of the Queensland bonds you can also invest for a 4-year term at 13%, and I'd have some of that as well. I'll see you next Monday.
Trade union banners have a long tradition. They're normally reserved for display in annual May Day parades or are waved defiantly during strikes. The showing of Birgit Hansen's banners in the regional gallery is therefore unusual and is one end result of a project by the Workers' Cultural Action Committee. Hansen, who has painted murals at the Civic Playhouse and Fort Scratchley, was commissioned to create the banners for 5 Newcastle unions. She executed them in her distinctive reach out and grab you photograph-like style. To obtain her ideas, Hansen travelled to different factories and workplaces, sketching, taking photos, and talking to women and men. As a result, the paintings sparkle with honesty and authenticity. The Unemployed People's Union poster reveals what it's like to be without a job. The banners were designed to be used and have been carried in parades. When the exhibition ends on July the 8th, they will be hung in their union's offices.
Newcastle defeated Central West 18-6, with winger Damien Brown scoring tries along with a try by centre Ian Neal, while 5'8" Liam Maroney landed 2 penalty goals. Newcastle seconds completed the Grand Slam for the zone when they won the President's Cup and the Richardson Shield. In another Caldwell Cup match, Illawarra, the 1983 holder, scored 5 tries and 4 conversions in the last 20 minutes to swamp New England 32 points to 6. Newcastle seconds won their President's Cup clash against Central Coast 21 points to 7, with Hunter Valley accounting for Riverina 30 to 6 in the remaining game.
There was a fair bit of work to be done to get to this stage, but it was always envisaged to float back a portion of the shares to the people in the region.
So it appears that people in the region will be given preference when it comes to purchasing shares?
Yes, that's correct. We will give preference to people of the region and Newcastle and the existing shareholders of the Baker Corporation.
Well, when will those shares become available?
They will be available in September, October. Our stockbrokers are working on the final detail, and that should be September, October.
And what about a price? Any way of knowing just what they'll be worth?
Well, the price, of course, is a very important factor, and we're waiting for final advice from our stockbrokers before we can name that price.
The Hunter's metal industries are being pinched from both ends. At the heavy end, there are no new major projects to take up the slack left by the completion of Araring Power Station, the Kooragang coal loader and the Tomago smelter. At the lighter manufacturing end, the industry is still struggling to lift itself to a position from which it can compete with imports by exporting. And meanwhile, jobs keep disappearing. So serious is the problem that for the first time in Newcastle, unions and management, in the spirit of consensus, have joined forces to organise a forum which will examine the future of their industry and look for some solutions to its problems.
We want to make sure that the people and the parliamentarians, those type of people, really know the problems that our industry is facing. We're facing very severe problems. They appear to be getting worse. We believe that the remainder of 84 and into 85, that the industry is facing tremendous problems, and that we want to make this seminar we're having is to make people aware and to make the politicians and those people in government that are making decisions aware of the problems we're facing.
Do you think that bringing management and unions together will have a lot of impact? Because it's not them and us anymore. Obviously you're both saying the same thing.
Yes, well, we're cooperating because the unions are very concerned on the downturn of the metal industry, manufacturing industry.
And you think that by joining together you can find answers?
Well, we have to do everything possible to try and find a solution to get over this problem, at least to reduce the possible unemployment that will come if something's not done in the next year or two in the metal manufacturing industry.
State Emergency Service volunteers in the Cessnock region certainly had cause to be happy today. As well as witnessing the opening of their long-awaited modern base, they received a number of donations in the form of both money and equipment. Mr. Ron Field from the Joint Coal Board presented them with $1,000 to pay for refrigeration equipment for the new kitchen. 2 self-contained breathing units, valued at more than $2,000, were donated by Cessnock Police. The Curry Rotary Club provided a new 2-way radio, and the Mayor of Cessnock, Alderman Gordon Williams, handed over the keys to a 4-wheel drive rescue truck. The truck, which will be used as a backup vehicle, was bought for the SES by Cessnock Travel. The volunteers were not prepared for yet another donation of $1,000 by Police Minister Anderson on behalf of the state government. Mr. Anderson then unveiled the plaque and declared the new building officially open. The building was named after the late Mr. John Tinkler, who devoted 25 years to establishing and coordinating volunteer emergency services in the Cessnock region.
After a luncheon in the Lord Mayor's suite, Mr Tanaka and his wife inspected one of Newcastle's tangible links with Japan, the Sedano collection of Japanese ceramics at the Newcastle Art Gallery. Both visitors expressed their admiration of the collection, which includes works of Shoji Hamada, officially listed as one of Japan's living national treasures. The Tanakas were accompanied on their tour by 2 Year 9 Japanese language students from Newcastle High. After the art gallery, the next stop was Blackbutt Reserve to see kangaroos and koalas. Tomorrow, the Consul-General will visit Tomago Aluminium before attending the official opening of the Kooragang coal loader.